So what was your role?
I was the driver.
That's all you did? You didn't have anything to do with duct taping him or stabbing him or anything like that?
No, sir. No, sir, I did not. I didn't actually do that.
We are about to watch the parole hearing for a man that's only given another opportunity because of Act 122. At the end of the hearing, we are going to watch his co-defendant's commutation hearing. And then after that, we are going to have a surprise hearing. With that, let's jump in.
Classified as a second offender. He has a good time release date of July 9th of 2128, full term date of 8/19/2151. He is currently serving 150 years on the charge of manslaughter, armed robbery, and second-degree kidnapping, having been sentenced on September the 17th of 2003. Is all of this accurate, Mr. Hood?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hood, your case was assigned to me, so I'll begin the questions or our interview. Mr. Hood, how old are you, sir?
50,
And how long have you been in prison on these charges?
20 years.
Tell me, if you would, in your own words, what you did, what happened, how did this come about?
Well, at the time that all this happened, I worked on the river, been working on the river for some years. I'd hurt my back, and I'd met a fella, and my financial situation was pretty bad, and the guy come up with the idea of going and robbing a grocery store, and nobody was supposed to get hurt. We went and I rode with him, and next thing you know, somebody did get hurt. Somebody got killed, and I'm doing it.
Well, specifically, this man left the store.
Yes, sir.
Tell me specifically what happened. It's my understanding y'all waited for the man to leave the store. You
Yes, sir.
right back to the store. So tell me what actually happened.
He left the store after he closed the store. We followed him towards his home, flagged him down, got him to get in the car, and took him back to the store. I stayed in the car. From what my co-defendant explained before all this happened, nobody was supposed to get hurt. And he went in, and when he come back out, he was, he did it.
So what was your role?
I was the driver.
That's all you did? You didn't have anything to do with duct taping him or stabbing him or anything like that?
No, sir. No, sir, I did not. I didn't actually do that.
Well, were you in there when it happened?
No, sir, I wasn't in the store at all.
Did you go to trial or did you plead guilty?
I pled guilty.
Tell me about the programs that you have done while you've been there.
All right. I've completed 2 vocational schools, welding and carpentry school. I've done 100 hours, substance abuse, anger management, some faith-based programs. I've done, right now I'm thinking for a change, and I've been trying to do victims awareness. I haven't been able to get in that class yet.
You have a drug or alcohol problem? Was drugs or alcohol involved in this in any way?
No, sir. No, sir, it wasn't. I did that. I was fully aware and chose to do it.
And y'all talked about this? Y'all planned to do this?
Yes, sir. It was planned. That was a planned thing.
Well, how did you get the man in the car? I mean, did he just voluntarily come in?
No, he didn't. He didn't voluntarily get in the car. my fall partner, he had a gun, and he forced me to
Nobody
get
will
the
get
car.
hurt. You know, your fall partner had a gun. Y'all forced someone to come in the car
Yes,
with
sir.
you.
Yes, sir. I understand that, and he got in the car, and we got him to the store, and he took him in the store, and I don't understand, what exactly went on in the store. I just know he killed a man, but all it boils down to, I did that. I did that, and I take it. I did it, and it's every day of my life I think about that, and I did a horrible thing.
What happened to your fall partner?
He's got a life sentence. He's up here.
He go to trial?
No, sir, he didn't.
He pled guilty?
Yes, sir.
He plead guilty to second degree murder?
He's got first degree murder.
First. What's your transition plan? What do you plan on doing if you get out?
Well, finally got Kerry Myers is going to help me get a job. My mom we already did an interstate compact thing. I don't know if it's been approved yet, but I'm going to try to move to Mississippi
To
and
Mississippi?
get some work up there. Yes, sir. I would like to, I know it's hard to get a twit card, but I'd like to get back on the boat, get my time in and get a captain's license, and hopefully go from there.
You've taken living in balance, 1 and 2, reentry, anger management, victim awareness. Tell me what you learned in victim awareness. What,
I haven't taken victim awareness. I'm right now, I'm thinking for a change.
okay, I thought
Taking
you
victim
did.
awareness.
Okay, I thought I'd seen victim awareness. Well, let me ask you this. What would you say to the family of the victim who had an opportunity to speak?
There's, I wish I could take it back. There's nothing I could do to take it back. I wish I could. I don't deserve this at all. I don't deserve a second chance, but I'm asking for one anyway. I'm asking for a little grace. I've grown since I've been at Angola. I've learned things at Angola, and just really matured and learned to accept, a lot of things that I've caused. I've really done some stuff that I don't, it's hard, and I just would ask them just to give me a shot.
Now did you say you were in thinking for a change?
Yes, sir. I'm in thinking for a change right now.
How much longer you got before you finish that?
I don't know. I just took the 4th class. How long does that generally take, Mr. Odie? It's 12 weeks. So I done 4, I done 2 weeks. I have 10 weeks left.
And you have 29 write-ups. Your last one was in 2018. Contraband, what was the contraband?
Beer. It was Christmas, and I was making some beer for Christmas.
Now you're in the sober group?
Yes, sir, I am.
Tell me about that. What does that mean?
It means I'm supposed to be sober. I'm supposed to stay sober. I messed up. I was planning on getting a little drink on for Christmas, and I wasn't thinking.
Well, do you have a drinking problem?
No, sir, I don't. It was Christmas, and in the spirit, and it was the wrong spirit to be in.
Gordon, what can you tell us about Mr. Hood?
He is recently, back in September 21, has worked back up to a Min B. He is working as a welder right now at Camp D. Been doing that since December of 21. Prior to that, He's done some maintenance work for us, worked as a stock clerk in the canteen. And again, he's got some other spots here where he's provided us with some welding services. Really not had a whole lot of issue with him. I mean, his write-ups, you guys see his write-ups. But as far as his moving around in the penitentiary, not had a whole, his name has not popped up frequently, I can say that.
That's a good thing.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Mr. Myers?
Yes, good afternoon. Kerry Myers, Parole Project. I first want to state that I have spoken with Mr. Hood's mother, Marilla Inman, who lives in Mississippi. She does not have a computer. She has a phone, and she was struggling with that phone to get Zoom to appear today. She's texted me, left voicemail messages. She's had technical difficulties with that, though she's waiting for me to inform her of the results of this hearing. So I wanted to let the board know that she would be here short of those technical difficulties. It's also where Mr. Hood will go to once we determine that his ICOTS is approved. And, well, I'm sure you heard that. And completed his programming with Parole Project. I also want to point out that Mr. Hood started his programming. He's parole eligible because of Act 122. He started his vocational training. He started his programming before he ever became parole eligible. Those are the things that demonstrate maturity, demonstrate the willingness and desire to improve, to be the better person from the inside. And also said that Mr. Hood came to us as a recommendation from someone in parole and probation who obviously believes enough in Mr. Hood to have referred him to us. So I'd like this board to consider that he has a reentry plan. He has a pending ICOTS. If it's not approved yet, we'll find out very soon. And he has Parole Project as a transition plan. So I would ask this board to consider all these things, the fact that he has started his rehabilitation before he ever thought about being parole eligible, and to grant his parole today under any conditions this board sees fit.
Thank you, Mr. Myers. Mr. Hood, is there anything you'd like to say to the board before we vote?
You know me, yeah, I'd like to say, thank you, for seeing me, no matter what y'all final decision is, I still appreciate it. And, if y'all deny me, I look forward to seeing y'all again next year. I just thank you.
Mr. Hood, I'll vote first since you were assigned to me. You've got a minimal record. I mean, you really committed a horrible crime.
Yes, sir.
Someone's life, even though you perhaps didn't go in, didn't actually kill him. Under our law, you're still a principal, as you well know. I'm sure that's why you put to the charges of manslaughter. You have done well while you've been in prison. You have a low risk. You've taken some excellent programs. You've got a very good transition plan. You've been in prison for 21 years on manslaughter charge, armed robbery charge, and second-degree kidnapping charge. You're in the sober group. You've got a number of certificates. I'm going to take a chance on you. My vote today is going to be to grant your parole to the Louisiana Parole Project to get a substance abuse evaluation. You had the beer. I want to make sure everything is fine with that. Curfew from 9 to 6, 5 hours of community service. I'm only one vote. That's my votes. Good luck to you. Mr. Johnson.
Mr. Hood, I was glad Mr. Myers pointed out, because I was going to say it, that I noticed in the record that you started working on you before you ever knew you'd have this day. And that's commendable, before you ever knew you were going to be paroled. So that speaks volumes to me. So my vote is going to be the same as Mr. Marabella's, to grant to the Parole Project Plan and eventually Mississippi with your mother. Was that just and that's based on what you've done, good programs, good transition plan, good conduct record. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hood, I also vote to grant your parole today, with the same conditions, and, I feel that you need to go to Mississippi 100%, get that family support.
All right. Thank you very much. I really thank y'all.
Mr. Hood, you have 3 votes to grant your parole. You will be paroled to the Louisiana Parole Project, then to Mississippi with all the conditions as we've outlined. Good luck to you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Welcome. I think that's it. We'll close out at 3.
Okay, so remember now, we're going to fast forward about 5 months to see his co-defendant's hearing, his commutation hearing, because the co-defendant had pled guilty to first-degree murder and he was given a life sentence. And isn't that interesting, the difference between given a life sentence and 150 years in prison? Who would have thought that it would come down to a technicality? You see, 150 years in prison is a number set of years, which makes Act 122 play in. It means that anyone who served more than 25 years and is above the age of 40 is now eligible for parole because of Act 122. We've spoken about Act 122 many times, so I'm not going to get into the weeds on it because we are covering a lot today, but just kind of interesting. I bet no one thought in 150 years that 150 years could mean parole while life sentence could not. But his co-defendant applies for a commutation hearing, which means that if the board approves, they would make a recommendation to the governor to give him a chance at a parole hearing. Now, before we jump into that commutation hearing, I'm going to read this article that was published shortly after, about 2 weeks after this parole hearing. It says, Louisiana man sentenced 150 years in prison paroled. And it goes on to say that the district attorney, Terry Lambright, is slamming the decision makers at the executive level of the state service system for a man who was granted parole this month, despite serving only a fraction of his 150-year sentence for the gruesome murder of a grocery store manager. Michael Hood appeared before the state parole board on April 13th and was subsequently granted release by board members upon a stay in transition program for a period of 3 months to 1 year and then moving out of state. The release of the defendant is yet another example of policy at the executive level of state government gone completely off the rail, Lambright says. Hood was convicted in 2003 for the 2001 kidnapping and killing of Stephen Van Rogers, the manager's store. Robert's body was found inside the store the morning after the shift the night before, police said. He had been bound by duct tape and stabbed more than 30 times in the head. The killing had been robbery. Authorities said the stabbing had been so vicious that the blade of the knife used had broken in Rogers' head, an occurrence that was later bragged about by Hood and his accomplice. Hood was sentenced to serve 80 years for the armed robbery, 40 years for manslaughter, and 30 years for second-degree kidnapping. The sentences were ordered to be served consecutively, making combined 150. It was a part of a plea agreement which Hood agreed to waive all state federal appeals, post-conviction, and double jeopardy claims. It returns that the state agreed to drop first-degree capital murder. I have been the district attorney of Vernon Parish for 19 months, and during this period of time, numerous people have been released of parole. And by the way, so what was interesting here, and thank you, Richard, for tying together all of these hearings. What was interesting here is that the DA did come out and make this big, great statement, right? A press release about how could it be that he gets out? How could it be that this would happen? And obviously, when seeing this, it's like, wow, DA, it's again just a whole political stunt. It's just about making a lot of noise, but not actually caring, because he could have shown up, but he didn't. He didn't show up on behalf of the victims, but he waits 2 weeks later and he issues a press release. Well, you fast forward a few months to his co-defendant, and he does show up. How you want to feel about that, it's up to you. But with that, let's jump in.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
understand?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
you are John Morad. Your DOC number is 473-691. You're here this morning seeking a commutation of your sentence. You were sentenced in the 30th JDC Vernon Parish in October 2003 to a life sentence for a first-degree murder conviction. Mr. Morad, is that information correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Rocha.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Morat.
Morning.
Mr. Morat, I have a presentation, and any of the information in this presentation is incorrect. Would you please stop me and correct me, okay?
Yes, sir.
Madam Chairman, fellow board members, we have before us this morning John Paul Morat, DOC number 473-691. He's here this morning seeking a recommendation for a commutation of sentence for a first-degree murder conviction in Vernon Parish on September 10th, 2002. The offense was committed in the late hours of April 16th, 2001, in the early morning hours of April 17th, 2001. Morat was arrested almost 2 months later in June 2001 in Lakeview, Oregon, and extradited back to Louisiana on a first-degree murder warrant on June 4th, 2001. And he was charged with first-degree murder and armed robbery. Immediately after the armed robbery and the murder of Mr. Stephen Van Rogers, Morat and his wife fled the state to Lakeview, Oregon, his wife's hometown. After multiple sanity hearings in 2001 and 2002, the result of those hearings was, and I quote, no support to find insane at the time of the offense, capable for trial. Once that determination was made that he was not insane and capable to stand trial, he pled guilty to first-degree murder without the death penalty. And on October 20th, 2003, he was sentenced to life and hard labor at DOC without benefit of probation, parole, or suspension of sentence. The Vernon Parish DA's office decided not to bill the armed robbery charge. Mr. Morat is currently 42 years of age. At the time of the offense, he was 20 years of age. He's been incarcerated for only 21 years on a first-degree murder conviction. Our position in this case comes from the entire legal community in Leesville, Louisiana, and Vernon Parish. The 30th JDC Judge Vernon B. Clark, is strongly opposed. the 30th JDC District Attorney's Office, Attorney Harry Lambright is adamantly opposed, and Attorney Lambright is present this morning at the hearing and will make a statement at the appropriate time. The Vernon Parish Sheriff's Office is opposed, and Chief of Police Greg Hill of Leesville, Louisiana, is adamantly opposed. The mother of the victim is vehemently opposed. Mrs. Irma B. Rogers is opposed to any clemency for Mr. Morat. Ms. Emma Rogers is the mother of the victim. Mr. Morat has a low risk assessment. He's housed in minimum custody. He has a good institutional record. He's earned a GED. And his current job is a farm animal worker 3. Let's go over some of your programs, Mr. Morat. Let me get to that page. Mr. Morat has multiple certificates from the National Center for Construction and Education Research. He has a certificate in commercial construction, residential construction, in level 1 carpentry fundamentals. He has a certificate in core curricula. He has a certificate in framing and finishing. Also, he has a nice letter from the president of the National Center for Construction and Education and Research. Other programs are a diploma in carpentry from the Louisiana Technical College. He earned his GED in 2008. He's completed Living in Balance Phase 1 in 2016, Phase 2 of Living in Balance in August of 16, 100 hours pre-release in 2015, victim awareness, and he has a certificate and certified in CPR. He has several faith-based programs, experiencing God, ethics and Christian living, and many other faith-based programs. Mr. Morat, is there any other programs that you would like to mention that you've completed?
There's none that I could think of, Mr. Board Member.
Okay, I've covered it pretty much. Your disciplinary conduct, you have a total of 14 disciplinary write-ups and 21 years of incarceration. The last one being an aggravated disobedience in December of 2013, almost 8.5 years ago. You have a good transition plan with the Louisiana Parole Project with Mr. Andrew Huntley. You have both your residential plan and your employment plan with the Louisiana Parole Project. Warden Falgout, is there any comments, remarks, or observations at this time?
First, he has been a Min A as far as a Class A trustee for us now since September of 15. He's worked on paint crews since 2017. Been at the horse lot, not had any issues with him in the last several years, like you spoke, as far as his his write-up history. The last thing was in December of 13, so we've not had any trouble. He's been a good worker for us.
You want to go, Madam Chairman? I do have a recommendation in this case, and I will share with my fellow board members at the conclusion of this interview.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. I don't see any other questions, so we'll hear from those in support. We'll hear from the Parole Project first.
Good morning, Kerry Myers, Louisiana Parole Project. This board always has a very serious mission, and that's determining who someone is as they come before them. One thing John Morant knows that he cannot change are the facts of the crime that got him here. What he can do is change who he is. And I think by his record, that John has proven that he is not the same 20-year-old man who committed this terrible crime. This board sees many terrible crimes. It is essentially the whole reason this board exists, for people who have no other hope of having this second look. And John has done everything that he can to be a better person. He has, Mr. Roche outlined his programs. The warden has spoke about his conduct, his value to the institution. We believe in John. We believe fully in John. John has worked hard for one thing, and that is to be a better person and for redemption, whether that redemption ever comes or not. And because of that, we fully support John. So we would just ask this board to consider the hard work that he's done, the person that he is today in front of you, and the fact that he does have a strong reentry plan after Parole Project. John does have family support, which he does intend to go out of state once he completes Parole Project. And just in general, just to close, I think the most important thing this board can do in many cases is provide hope. Hope that someone's sincerity for change has value. So I'm just asking this board to consider John's sincerity for change.
Thank you, Mr. Myers. Could we hear from Mr. Morant's mother, Mrs. Carroll?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. I'm just going to say on John's behalf, whenever we would visit, he was very remorseful of what he's done. He would always tell us that. His children got to visit him one time, and he told them the same thing. What he did was wrong, and he's paying the consequence for us. And I just ask for y'all's mercy, I guess, and consideration. You know, back when he was 20, he was an angry person. He was. And I'm just asking, for y'all to give him a second chance. Like you said, we cannot take away the past. We cannot take away what has happened. And that's all I have to say. And he does have my support. We're here to support him financially, a place to live, do the church. Yes, he will have his support.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And is Elizabeth there with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, good morning. So I'm Elizabeth Arquello. I'm John's sister. He actually, I sent in paperwork for his residency plan. He would be moving in with me. As my mom has spoke 20 years ago, he was a completely different person. And I will just give you a little bit of backdrop of our childhood. We grew up in a domestic violent home that had a lot of alcohol, a lot of abuse. And so through this project, and I hate to say to turn a situation that was extremely, what would be a statistic, he has been able to go after his GED. He's been able to go through the programs, and with the programs, it's helped him turn his life around. And he has been remorseful. He's accepted responsibility. He has shared that he cannot change anything that's happened, and if he could, he would. And throughout this process, if you would ask me 20 years ago, would I see us to this point? I would have told you no. And that's just a professional opinion. Working with the public for over 20 years, he wasn't ready. And throughout the years, it's allowed him to go through these programs and do a lot of research for himself, as well as make himself better. And I've shared just when he gets out, like the things that he can change. And those are what he's done with his projects, as far as getting his degree and his trades. But he shared that he wants to get back in Stephen's name. He can't give his life back, but he can definitely sacrifice for those around him. So I too, we all have done things that we regret. And I know for a fact he has regretted this from day one. It's cost him everything, but in the end, it's cost him everything too, because he's been able to turn his life around, whether that's here, he gets the mercy from you guys, or if he continues his life and continues to be a productive person within the system. But I really believe that there is a second chance, and given the opportunity, he would change it around. He's not the same person that he once was. Thank you both all for your time.
Yes, ma'am, and thank you for your input and your participation. At this time, we'd like to hear from the district attorney's office, Mr. Wainwright.
Good morning. My name is Terry Lambright. I'm the district attorney in Vernon Parish, and was definitely not the district attorney back at the time that this actually occurred. I was very young assistant district attorney at that particular time. It was in fact a horrific crime, and you can look in your packet and you can see that. You can also see in there that Mr. Murat does in fact admit that he did this. He admits that he doesn't deserve a second chance. There are some things that if he has children and talks to his children, I talk to my children all the time. There are some things that saying I'm sorry and it's enough. That's not enough. Sometimes saying I'm sorry is not enough. And this is not enough. In this case, Mr. Van Rogers was stabbed 35 times. Horrific scene. That was after he was taken from his car, driving home from work, because Mr. Murat and his co-defendant actually tricked him into getting him to pull over on the side of the road, and then took him back to the grocery store. He does everything that they want him to do, opens the safe, gives them the money. They actually take tape off of the shelf, duct tape. They bind his legs and feet and his hands, and they put it across his mouth. And then he stabbed 35 times, and they break the knife blade off in his skull after he complied. Sorry and certificates won't bring him back, won't do anything for that. Mr. Murat, I'm glad that he's actually in the system, doing well and functioning well in the system, and I'm glad to hear that he's doing that. But releasing people who actually commit these type of crimes is absolutely the wrong message to send to anybody, whether they move out of state or not. And I know that we've had that's been some trend that we've been going down, which again makes no difference when you commit crimes of this nature. And so I'm adamantly opposed to the commutation. The office that I now represent and the people that I represent now, Mr. Murat bargained for and got exactly what he agreed to. He agreed to a first-degree murder conviction with a life sentence as opposed to the death penalty. We don't get to, the state doesn't get to go back and bargain to change that to some specific time so that he'll become parole eligible. The victims don't get to do that. The district attorney's office tells people and victims that this is what he's agreed to. And so they're willing to accept that. He was willing to accept that, and now 20 years later, he wants to get out. Again, I applaud him for doing well while he's in the institution. But he should not be released. He should not have a sentence commuted. And I would hope that the recommendation of this panel is to not recommend commutation of sentence. I'll answer any questions you may have.
Ms. Jackson. Yes, Mr. Lambright, thank you for being here. I appreciate your input. But I have some questions about Michael Hood.
Yes, ma'am.
Defendant in the case. I
Yes, ma'am.
see that as you were giving your presentation, you indicated that they were both involved in the commission of all aspects of this crime. Yet I see that Mr. Hood pled guilty to armed robbery, manslaughter, and second kidnapping, and received a total sentence of 150 years. Do you have any information as to why the two cases were handled differently?
I'm not exactly sure of that. Again, I've been working at the office in January of 2000 of that year. I'm not exactly sure what all went into the full discussions there. Again, we're behind that now, but Mr. Hood was released at 20 years of a 150-year sentence, and which I don't believe that should have happened either, because again, he bargained for 150 years as well.
I was just.
But I don't know exactly
The two
what they
cases
are.
were handled differently. So thank you. I appreciate your being here. You.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you, sir. We appreciate you being here, Mr. Longbright.
Thank you.
Mr. Morad, is there a statement you'd like to make to the board?
No, ma'am.
None? All right, well, with that, I think we'll be prepared to vote. We'll start with Mr. Rocha.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Morat,
Yes, sir.
the crime that you committed was so egregious. I don't think 21 years of incarceration is nearly sufficient retribution for the crime. I don't understand why an individual with duct tape legs, hands, feet, mouth, and then deliberately have an individual who is helpless, who's done everything that he was told to do, and you stabbed him 35 times. That is so egregious. I have no understanding of why no one would do that. You've only served 21 years on a first-degree murder conviction. You have opposition. You're always going to have opposition. You have opposition from the judge, the DA's office, the sheriff's office, the chief of police. But my main reason for my decision is insufficient time for such an egregious offense as you committed. Based on all things I just articulated, my recommendation to my fellow board members is to deny your request.
Thank you, Mr. Rocha. Mrs. Jackson.
I'm all right. I ran with interest your application. First, I'd like to commend you for the things that you have done and things that you've been involved in. Since your incarceration, and I will encourage you to continue to work in that direction. In your application, you said that you didn't feel like this was the time for you to be seeking commutation, but you did it because you promised someone that you would. I'm not going to get into who that was or the circumstances of that. But I agree with Mr. Roche given just the nature of the crime and the amount of time served. Today is not your day. But I would encourage you to keep doing the things that you're doing. And perhaps there will be a day in the future where you have a different outcome. But my vote today would be to deny. But good luck to you.
Thank you, Mrs. Jackson. Mr. Marabella?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Marat, I do want to commend you for the good record, the fact that you are doing well. Mr. Myers spoke to the board earlier, and he said that he really would like to see you get some hope. I think Mr. Roche's comments and Ms. Jackson's comments and my comments hopefully will give you some hope. I do believe that you're going to get a favorable vote at some point. I just don't think, based upon the number of years that you currently serve, that today is the day. But I do think that you are doing extremely well. I hope you can continue to do that. And I don't think it's going to be that much longer if you come back again before this board that you will get a favorable vote. It's just not today. Good luck to us.
Mr. Freeman?
I concur with my colleague, but I do think you're doing very well. And as Judge Marabella said, I do think your time will come, but 21 years for that crime is just not sufficient.
Mr. Moore, you've received 4 votes to deny your application for clemency. So today your application for clemency's been denied, sir.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it. And you hear about the viciousness of this crime. They took a man back to the supermarket, got everything they wanted, opened the safe, but then tied him up, bound him with duct tape, and then stabbed him over 30 times. This is not, as the DA, so, it doesn't make a difference when the DA shows up. Isn't that interesting? And I think initially I was just going to say, it's just a bunch of noise. He issues a press release, and maybe it was pressure from that made him show up. I don't know. But what I got to tell you, what sticks out to me about all of this is that it seems that what's lost in time is what his co-defendant, what his involvement actually was. Because in all the articles that Richard shared, it stated that they both went inside the store, that they were both involved. What the DA seems to have no idea about this case, the board seems to have no idea about this case. And wouldn't it be crazy if they had just released that man on parole and he was there in the store with him? He was involved in duct taping him and tying him up. He was involved in the stabbing, because I can't find anywhere where it simply states that he was. On the contrary, all the writing states that he was in the store with him. But it's not, it's not like investigative writing. It's more like nonchalant. So this is the article that says that he was denied. He's been serving life since 2002. Marat thus far served 21 years to life sentence. The attorney, Lambright, said he pled guilty to the agreement to avoid the death penalty. He traveled from Baton Rouge Monday to present his adamant opposition in the person of the board. During Monday's hearing, Lambright recounted, and remember, we're going to watch one more surprise hearing after this, in the gruesome killing of 41-year-old Stephen Van Rogers, who worked as the manager of Stanley Super, the grocery store. According to Lambright and his accomplice, Michael Hood tricked Van Rogers into pulling over the night of April 16th. He was driving home from his night shift at the store. The men then forced Van Rogers to return to the store, where they had him open the store safe. The men then bound Van Rogers with duct tape before stabbing him to death 35 times. You see that? It says the men bound him with duct tape. Now, again, that could just be because no one really, people forgot what his involvement was, or they just took his word for it. That they took his word for it that that all he did was drive, which is hard to believe. You know, off the base of this, it was like, okay, it's an armed robbery. He stayed in the car. He had no idea his co-defendant was going to do this. You know, I happen to have I feel a certain way about those who are involved in crimes when they're not there at the time that there was a death. I believe they should be treated differently. I believe it's a different type of people. But in this case, it just seems that there's no evidence proof. You know, there's no, because they took these plea deals. And it was interesting listening to the first hearing. I was wondering, like, why would anyone plead guilty to first degree homicide unless there's death penalty on the table? And why would there be a death penalty case on the table? Because we didn't have that information. We didn't know in the first hearing that he was tied up, duct taped, and tortured. And then we get that in the second hearing. And it just makes me wonder if it was somehow an oversight by the commutation board with the lack of information. What do you think? Well, it's interesting because the world has a funny way of doing things. And what I mean by that is that we are about to see the return of John. His parole has been revoked. Apparently, he never made it to Mississippi. So we are going to see his parole revocation hearing. With that, let's jump.
Mr. Hood, this is a revocation hearing. I want to explain our procedure to you. First, I'm going to cover your parole revocation questionnaire. Then I'm going to read the allegations against you that allege that you have violated your parole. And then I'll ask you to plead either guilty, not guilty, guilty with a statement, or not guilty with a statement. And then we'll conduct a hearing with you, at which time we'll ask you some questions. You'll have an opportunity to address the board. And it's my understanding that you do have some supporters here at headquarters that would like to speak on your behalf. Miss Anna Colon, who is a friend, is here and wishes to speak. Miss Gail Nolan, who is an employer, who is present and wishes to speak. And Katie Scott, who is a friend who is present but does not wish to speak. Once we've had that interview with you, you'll have an opportunity to say whatever you'd like to say to the board, and then we'll vote. You understand our process, sir?
Yes, sir.
Do you have your parole revocation questionnaire in front of you?
Yes, sir.
Is that your signature at the bottom on September the 21st of 2023?
Yes, sir.
Is that information, was that information all accurate at that date?
Yes, sir.
Continues to be accurate today?
Yes, sir.
Are you ready to go forth with your procedure?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and read the allegations against you and ask you how you plead. The first violation is 13, special condition, curfew between 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. unless prior approval received from officer from work, church, or other activity. You were in violation of this condition in that you were later coming home for curfew on September the 12th of 2023. GPS monitoring has you returning home at 9:41 p.m. Subject texted Agent Tappan at 8:42 p.m. that he would be 30 minutes late for curfew because he had to run to town for his cousin. I advised him that this was a violation of curfew the next day. This is technically the third violation of the curfew. The first was on October the 27th of 2022. It was addressed by verbal reprimand due to being new to the Amite district, and once again explained the curfew and how it would be enforced. The second was on January 26th of 2023. You went to the state of Mississippi without a travel permit. Subject notified me by text at 3:15 p.m. that after work, he was going to Mississippi due to his mother having a heart attack. He did not leave work early to travel to Mississippi and acknowledged he completed his work day before traveling to Mississippi. He did not report to Amite district to get a travel permit for this violation. Agent tapped in place subject on GPS monitoring. How do you plead to the allegations of violations of your curfew?
Guilty with a statement, sir.
Okay. Your case has been assigned to Ms. Wise. Would you please answer any questions she might have?
Good morning.
Hey, how you doing?
All right, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Doing good, all right. How long has you been out of jail?
Since April 28th, 2022.
Okay, give me the reason for your violation today. What's your understanding of?
Ma'am, on the date in question, around 7 o'clock, my cousin called, said she had to get her vehicle to the mechanic shop to get repaired. I asked her, I told her, I said, well, it's kind of late. You know, do you really need to get it there? She said, yeah, I really need to get it there. Miss Gail, which is my boss and is like her foster mother. She was adopted into the family unofficially. She's paying for the car to get fixed. It's like, man, I don't want Miss Gail to fuss at me. I need to get the truck. I said, well, let's do it after 7. I think I can make it. So I went and I didn't realize I've been kind of out since August the 3rd, but I had an eye injury and I had going through surgeries and stuff. So my calculation of the time really wasn't good. So I went and got her vehicle there. And when I got to the shop, I realized it was 8:42, around that time. So I texted Officer Tapp and I said, hey, look, I'm gonna be about 30 minutes late getting home. I had run to town and I'm gonna be late. So I did what I had to do at that point in time. I took my cousin home. I went home, and the next day, she texted me and said I was in violation.
But you already knew you were in violation because you
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
So let's go back in that situation. What would you do differently knowing what you know now?
Oh, I tell her it's too late. She just has to wait till tomorrow. Yes, ma'am.
I'm glad you said it at the top of mind. I'm glad you said that.
Yes, ma'am, because I live out of town. I live in the country and she lives in town. And I really wasn't getting my time right. Like I said, I've been kind of laid up with my eye situations. It was, but it was really my fault anyway.
And what about the other 2 incidents? This was the 3rd incident that you had violated your curfew. So what was differently?
Okay, I'll go back to the very first incident. When I had got out of prison and was going through the parole project, we had the weekends free of curfew. We were straight on weekends. So when I moved to Mississippi, I didn't even have a curfew. I do go in once a month. I get my travel permit and come back to Louisiana. At that point in time, I was staying with my cousin. And then I got my own house. And when I got my own house, when I went back up to Mississippi, I got my parole transferred back to Louisiana. And I've been 6 months out and I wasn't even used to having a parole. I was at my cousin's house. I wasn't out doing anything wrong. I was at my cousin's house. And she called and she notified me that I was in violation of parole. So I had to go in the next day. And we went through all that kind of.
So now you understand that you're under the curfew. You understand that now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
You're willing to follow the curfew?
Yes, ma'am. I've done it. Those occasions were the only occasions that I messed up.
Okay, it's good to hear. That's good to hear. But that's all I have, Chairman.
I have a question.
Yep.
When you were released to Mississippi, was that a condition of your release that you go to Mississippi?
No, sir. It was just that was where I was going to go when I got through with the parole project.
Okay.
It was a special condition on the certificate.
Mr. Hood, I've got a question or two.
Yes,
I've reviewed the notes of your parole officer.
Yes, sir.
It appears to me that you have been very disrespectful to her in some of your comments. Now, before you shake your head,
Sir, yes, sir.
let me finish my question.
Yes, sir.
I was a judge for 16 years. I ran a drug court. And the first thing I looked at people when they walked in was their attitude.
Yes, sir.
And if their attitude was such that they didn't care and didn't want any part of what we were doing, I treated them a little differently.
Yes, sir.
Now I'm going to ask you right now, how was your attitude towards this parole officer? And how would you change it?
Well, sir, I was never disrespectful to her. I don't know where she gets that from. I really wasn't. We just didn't, I guess we just didn't see eye to eye or whatever, but I promise you that that's gonna change. If I'm still, y'all let me go, it's gonna change.
But what's going to change? If you say you weren't disrespectful to me.
I'll figure it out.
Well, let me stop you. As you look back, what did you do to give her that impression?
Well, I know the first time that I was in violation was kind of heated. It was a heated between us. But after that,
What was heated between you? She told you you had a violation and you got upset?
yeah, it's just a way. No, sir. It was when she called. She just was, you're in violation, and just was on the offense, and it made me defensive when she was like that. It just hit me wrong. But when the next day when I went in, we talked, and it was a sincere talk. And at that point in time, I felt like we was all right, but one day she had called me around 6:30 or so, asked me where I was at, and I told her I was at Miss Anna Mae's house, my boss's mother, and she said, well, I know it's not you still all right. You might be home right now. I just want to know if you was on your way home, I'd see you. I'm by your house. I said, well, I can be on the way home if you want to wait. She said, no, that's okay. I'll just catch you another day. I said, all right. So I got home around 8:45, and maybe 8:50 or so. I went and got in the shower at a little bit after 9. I had eaten. I got in the shower. Next thing you know, my phone rings while I'm in the shower, and I thought it was Miss Tappan. So I answered the phone, and she was, where are you at? I said, well, I'm at home. She said, no, you're not. You're not home. Your truck's not here. I said, my friend took my truck to the store. He'll be back in shortly. She said, well, you can't be at home. You ain't answering the door. I said, Miss Tappan, I ain't hear you. I said, I'm in the shower. She said, well, you need to get some clothes on and come see me right now. I said, well, let me wash off. I got soap on me. No, you need to come right now. I said, well, I'm gonna wash off. I had soap all on me. So I did what I did, and she had a real sour attitude. I didn't do it. I felt I didn't do anything wrong. So, and that's been what's been given to me a lot. And my reactions has been a lot of ways she's been talking to me. I'm sorry if that's wrong, but
Mr. Hood, let me just explain something to you. She is your supervisor.
Yes, sir.
And you're on supervision.
Yes, sir.
And whatever attitude there is between the two of you, it needs to change.
Yes, sir.
Primarily yours.
Yes, sir.
You're the one on parole. You're the
Yes.
one under supervision.
Yes, sir.
He's got a job to do. There are probably a lot of people like you that she's dealing with.
Yes, sir.
So you just have to understand that.
Yes, sir.
And the last thing you need to do is get in Dutch and get in trouble because of your attitude.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You've got some great comments by the warden. I'm sure he's gonna work with you and y'all gonna work on that, but that's a real issue.
Yes, sir.
So, as long as you're on supervision, you got a cloud over your head.
Yes, sir.
You're not the free man that you might be when you finish your term.
Yes,
But
sir.
right now, you're under supervision. And there's certain rules you gotta follow and you gotta like them.
Yes, sir.
You have to adhere to them. You don't necessarily have to like it, but you have to adhere to them and you have to be decent with the person who supervises.
Yes, sir.
Okay? So
Yes,
just
sir.
remember, she's got a lot of people like you that she's supervising, and perhaps she might be in a bad mood when she calls you because she's making sure you're doing the things that you're supposed to do.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now we'll hear from Ms. Cologne.
Both of them. But like I told him, at this point in time, she is over you and you have to abide by those rules. And so he understands. I didn't know a couple of the times that he may have violated his probation, had the curfew violation, but I knew he had violated before, and I knew he was trying to help his cousin who actually has 4 younger kids and 1 older kid. He has always tried to help her. And I've also instructed him he did not have the right in the position to be jeopardizing his, possibly being put back to prison. I said, for any reason. And I told Mike the same thing. You should not have done that. Because if they told my curfew is at 9, I'm going to be on at 7. So we shouldn't even be trying to make it at all. And I told him, so I'm going to watch you when a fine tooth comb. I said, because this is not acceptable. And I told her he's not doing nothing for you that's going to even put him in jeopardy of violating his probation. But I feel bad for him that she should even put him in that position to try to help her. She know that could potentially put him in violation. Men sometimes need a woman to help keep them straight. And I told her, so it's our obligation to be the women in his life to help keep him where he needs to be. And I just wanted to say, I appreciate Mr. Beats. I call her when Mike needs to be late or he's going to work over. And I do respect her position. She has a job to do. And I told him she's going to do her job and I'm going to help her do it. And my job is to keep you straight. So I just wanted to say that. And I appreciate the board hearing us today. And I do pray that he gets out. And it's our job. You will see me before the board if he don't act right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate your comments. He's lucky to have you in his life. Okay, Mr. Hood, is there anything you'd like to say to the board before the board votes?
Yes, sir. I'm real sorry for putting y'all through all this. I'm still learning. I'm learning. And a lot of times I run into a roadblock or bump in the road or whatever, and I learn from and this is a learning situation for me. And I appreciate y'all let me learn from it.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your comments. Is the panel ready to vote?
Yes, I'm ready. August the 19th of 2151. That's when your parole is scheduled to end.
Yes, ma'am.
That translates into a lifetime, doesn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
You really got to get with it.
Yes, ma'am.
I expected you to have an attitude with me this morning. I want to commend you on that. I don't know because of you had company, but you did not present the attitude that was presented in the record. And I was glad to see that. And you have everything in place to not be here. This is weird. This is weird. You got a mentor. Research shows anybody with a mentor, that just increases. That's why he's so powerful in his mentor role, because it increases the likelihood of you not being in jail, but you're in jail. You have an understanding employer. That's another big plus, but you're still in jail.
Yes, ma'am.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am. I understand.
Yes, I don't know if you just don't want the help or what, but do you want to get back out and try again?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Most definitely. My mama depended
I
on me.
don't want to give you anything you don't want.
Yes, ma'am.
And the same thing with your mother. If you can't go see her, you can't go see her. You're gonna have to get somebody to take your phone and do one of them videos where you can see you have to work around the conditions that you live in. We all do that. That's just being an adult.
Well, since that incident, I got her moved down here with me. She lives with me now. And
Great.
I
I'm
take
glad to
care
hear
of
that. Okay, I'm glad to hear that. I'm gonna take a chance on you. I'm gonna stop fussing at you and I'm gonna take a chance. So my vote is to revoke and continue your own supervision. Here's the caveat for me. I want you to report weekly to your probation officer for the first 3 weeks that you get out. That means if your officer is not in, leave a report, leave some kind of indication that you were there.
Yes, ma'am.
I want you to understand that she is really on your side.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
That's what she did, but I'm only one vote.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Mr. Freeman?
I think Ms. Wise put it perfectly, and there's no use for me to fuss at you anymore. She is your probation officer. I know Ms. Tappan, she's a good probation officer. She may come across like that, but she's just doing her job.
Yes,
She's
ma'am.
making you abide by the conditions we put on it. So I will go along with Ms. Wise. I'm gonna vote do not revoke. See her once a week for 3 weeks. Stay on electronic monitoring for 2 more months with absolutely no violation. Like your employer said, if you gotta leave at 7 to get on, leave at 7, even if it don't take you but an hour, just so you can try, to avoid any mishap.
Yes,
I think
sir.
she'll work with you. I mean, it sounds like your employer definitely will work with you to make sure you make those curfew.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Mr. Hood, I've already kind of chewed you out already, so I'm not going to do it again. You've got some very good support. The warden is there with you. He's helping mentor you, which is wonderful. Ms. Nolan sounds like a wonderful employer to have. She wants to work with you. She's very common sense, and she tells you, you're on supervision, just like we told you. And, sometimes you just gotta bite your tongue when things aren't going well. Okay, but you did a good interview today. You certainly got it in you to be a productive citizen, and you've been doing that. It just looks like maybe you and the probation or parole officer kind of rubbed each other the wrong way. But remember, she's very busy. She's got a lot of stuff going on in her life as well. And you're just one person that she's trying to supervise, and she's not against you. She really is in favor of you, and she wants you to be able to succeed, and we want you to succeed. So the vote today is going to be not to revoke you, with the condition that you report every week for the next 3 weeks, and then maintain doing what you're doing, but leave your attitude at the door or in the shower.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. Have a good day.
I'll tell you, when I first saw these hearings, I saw them in reverse order. I saw it at the revocation hearing, then the parole hearing, then I saw his codefendant's commutation hearing. Richard lined it all up for me, but I randomly watched it in reverse order. And when I first saw this revocation hearing, I was like, okay, I'm kind of rooting for him. I'm happy that he wasn't revoked. Things that stood out to me was that here's a warden of Angola that's going to retire. He's mentoring him. He's helping him. How beautiful is that? He has his employer stand up and support him. And I supported him in a way that was different than we normally see reporters. She was like, not saying, oh, head in the clouds. She was like, no, I'm going to be the boss. I'm going to make sure he follows rules. He needs to do things. And even feeling a certain way about his parole officer, which is like, really? Parole officer, you're going to revoke him? He's backing like a life sentence because he, minor infractions. But then when you see everything in order, it's more like, dude, you should be locked up. You're so lucky. Like, how are you making these inexcusable mistakes? She gave you 1, 2, we all know this, 3 strikes, you're out. And it was like you just didn't care. And that is concerning, especially when you have all the context that he was just released. He was given a gift. His co-defendant was denied. How he barely even made it. Next thing that stuck out to me was that where's Randy Meyer with the parole project? He makes that statement. Once with the parole project, always a client to the parole project. We're not just here for one thing. And meanwhile, his client is facing a life sentence. And do they send representative? Do they send an attorney? Do they send someone to they're nowhere to be found? Isn't that interesting? Maybe when the payment stops, they stop. Next thing was Mississippi. Where did that ever happen? I mean, the whole condition was Mississippi, Mississippi, Mississippi. And all of a sudden, it's like everyone forgets. Isn't that interesting? And then finally, the district attorney who had blasted the decision to parole the convicted murderer. He had blasted it. Where is he at the revocation hearing? You'd think he would have shown up first thing to say, wait a minute. Now, is it possible that he wasn't told about it? Or is it possible that it's just, it's not, and there's no benefit to him. You can come up with your own decisions, conclusions, whatever. What's still kind of really scaring me is that it seems that from all the information that we have in the news articles, including the commutation hearing, the parole hearing, it seems that no one really knows his involvement. And I don't know how you have a decision that is made, because if he was involved in that duct taping and torture, then that's scary. And with that, I'll let you